Commission. Section 40 of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 allows for the continuation of remote meetings. As such, this meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast on cable channel 15 and streamed online by FCTV. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. I'd like to thank our staff for their continued support to this commission, their diligence assisting applicants, and Kristen for her exemplary record keeping. We are missing 2 commissioners at the moment. Steve will not be in tonight. However, we have a quorum. We're moving forward. I'd like to remind you guys that for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time. Let's refrain from speaking over each other. Also, all votes will be done by roll call. When I call your name, state your name and your vote, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled. Be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you really want to hear a negative determination. And for the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, and so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued. 118 Clinton Avenue, 23 Spencer Baird, and 50 Weatherglass. All right, first up is a request for a continuance for a determination of applicability. Robert Kelly and Raymond Dively, 118 Clinton Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, an existing garage, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system, reconfigure the driveway, and construct additions, a garage, a pool house, a pool with a patio and a fence. Ms. Bergeron.
Yes, the applicant has requested a continuance until May 3rd.
So moved. Gladfelter.
Harlow Hawks, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this RDA until May 3rd. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Melissa.
Okay.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have continued this until 5:03.
Mr. Chairman, Courtney's in.
I see Mr. Bird. Welcome.
I was stymied by the new security measures and went in and used the wrong link. Sat there fighting with it for 5 minutes. Sorry, I should read my emails.
Okay. Next up, request for a continuance under a notice of intent. Cobalt Partners LLC, 23 Spencer Baird Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling with a deck and a rent station, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
You did, I have the wrong agenda. Spencer Bear, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Spencer Bear is requesting a continuance until May 17th.
So moved. Gladfelter.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until May 17th. Any questions or comments? Melissa?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Jen, every time I walk past that place, the silt fencing is down and they have yet to install the drain protection, what is it called? The little sack.
Catch basin.
Yes, what's it called? A catch basin?
Silt
Silt sock?
Silt sock,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, we'll
And-
reach out to the general contractor on the property and ask him to reestablish and protect the drainage swell. I mean, the catch basin.
Yeah, but also the silt fencing. I don't know what's going on. It looks like nothing's happened in the past couple of weeks.
Okay.
Okay,
Have
that's
they
why this
met-
is being continued.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're working towards getting permission from the town right now, Melissa, but we'll make sure they reestablish that hay bale line and silt fence line.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till May 17th. Anything else? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Lori,
Carla Hawks eye.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until May 17th. And for the record, Mr. Byrd has joined us. Next up are requests for determination of applicability. First up, CL Realty Trust, 89 Belvedere Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to pump dry, abandon, and replace an existing soil absorption system and to install a new septic distribution box. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project is solely located in an AE flood zone.
Bird
So
so.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawks eye.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Jeffrey Oppenheim, trustee of Cedars Trust, 123 Adamancet Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a sitting wall, install a fire pit, and conduct minor grading. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so moved.
Carla Hawks second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawks eye.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Dorothy Smith, 488 Central Avenue, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct an addition, reconstruct a portion of a deck, and install a dry well. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project is located in an AE flood zone.
Bird so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alyssa, it says a tree will be removed. What was the significance of the tree? Is it large, small?
It was a larger tree. Let me open this up here. The reason it's to come down is it's right next to the porch that is being reconstructed in the addition. I believe it's going to be a 2-story addition, so that tree will get in the way of construction. It's labeled here as a 10-inch tree. There are a number of trees, at least on the back half of the property. The whole property is in jurisdiction. It's just the one tree closest to the house that's coming down.
So you don't think they should be planting a tree and to replace it?
This isn't even in a buffer zone, is it, Alyssa?
No, it's just a flood zone.
Oh, I thought you just said it was all in our jurisdiction. Okay. I
It
see.
is.
Yeah, flood
It's in
zone
our
being
flood
jurisdiction.
Flood zone,
jurisdiction.
okay.
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Okay, forget it then. Thank you.
Valid questions? All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Anything else? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Jeff Brody, 3 Green Harbor Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct an addition and a deck. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project is also only located in an AE flood zone.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Anything else? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, LCG Realty Trust, Lucy Greer, trustee, care of Beth Van Hoover, 0 Barneck Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a gate in an existing post and rail fence and to install 2 signposts on the beach. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carlo Hawks second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? Seeing none. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Richard and Kelly Seeley, 39 Old Homestead Road, West Falmouth, Mass. For after-the-fact permission to install external heat pump components and for permission to install mitigation plantings. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? Seeing none. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Barwin's Beach Club, 140 Chappaquay Road, West Falmouth, Mass. For permission to repair and replace an existing handicap ramp and to install snow fencing. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments?
I have to abstain, but you were too quick for me to pull out.
Ha, ha, ha. All right, duly noted. All right, we have a motion and a second. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
All right. With five for it and 1 abstention, it passes anyway. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Want me to slow down, Maury? Sorry. All right,
I tried.
Victoria. I can't read off this and look at the screen, so what can I tell you? I'm gonna blow this name, I'm sorry. Victoria Lefevre, Gerald Fine, 21 Church Street, Woods Hole, Mass, for permission to conduct ongoing invasive species management. Sorry about that. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa.
Hot dog eye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Thomas Verillo, 43 Southview Way, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.18 10B. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird,
So
so
moved.
moved.
Second, Harlow Hawks.
all right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa.
Hot dog eye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Meredith Rowe, trustee, JR Personal Residence Trust, 48 Green Harbor Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install an osprey pole and platform by hand. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa.
Hot dog eye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. All right, the next one had been previously continued. I'm gonna read this in. I think I know the answer, but Russell Phillips, 105 Coonamessett Circle, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.18 10B. Ms. Bergeron?
Yes, the homeowner has withdrawn their application.
Okay. I gotta read it for the record anyway. Next up, estate of Paul and Elizabeth Rutledge, care of John Galucci, executor, 63 Santuit Road, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to pump, fill, and abandon the existing cesspool and to install a new Title V sewage disposal system. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Gladfelter, so moved.
Carlo
You're
Hawks
on
Eye.
mute.
Bird, second.
all right, we have a motion in about 3 seconds, so any questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa.
Hot dog eye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. All right. All right, some legalese for your entertainment. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up is a continued request for hearing under notice of intent. J. David and H. Jane Preston, 50 Weatherglass Lane, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct the paved right-of-way within its legal limits, install drainage, relocate the existing shed, install a modular wall with fence, and install restoration plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant's representative has requested a continuance until May 17th.
So moved.
Bird second.
This is like the third or fourth continuance. Are we going forward?
We are going forward. We've received some, but not all of the information the board requested. So instead of having all parties come back and the board re-requesting this information you requested before, we instructed them that it was probably best they request a continuance.
Thank you for that. All right,
So
we have a motion.
I have a question. Was this the four lawyer project?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until May 17th. Melissa?
Question about the four lawyer project. I seem to recall Betsy's comment earlier, but I wasn't present. So does that mean that I'm not on it yet, but it hasn't opened or?
Oh, we've opened it.
No, it opened. You're not on it and Maury's not on it.
Yeah, I didn't think I was on it. Okay. Although I went over there the other day, it was interesting.
All right, but this is
Okay.
simply a continuance request, so
Yep.
you can vote on that.
Oh, we can?
All right.
Okay.
Anything else? Again, motion and a second is to continue this to 5/17. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until May 17th. Next up, Gerard Good, 10 Rock Street, Falmouth, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise RAZE an existing single-family dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling. Reconfigure the driveway, remove the existing shed, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Mike Borselli. Oh, here comes Teresa, great. And Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, Teresa Sprague, Blue Flax Design to present their projects.
Okay, before you start, Mike, Alyssa, this hasn't been open, so the quorum is everyone here tonight. Okay. Mr. Boselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Mike Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant along with Teresa Sprague of Blue Flax Design. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
One second.
Have you forgotten how to do it, Mike?
Seems like I have. Geez, I'm a little rusty. How's that?
That works.
Okay. I represent the applicant Gerard Good, who owns the property at number 10 Rock Street. Number 10 Rock Street is at the corner of Rock Street, as you might expect, and another road named Hunt Street. I'm showing you the existing conditions plan. The lot is just over 20,000 square feet. It is, for the most part, open lawn area. There's an existing house and deck shown. In this location, there's an existing shed. There's an existing gravel parking area. There is a flood zone boundary that I've shown in blue. That is the border between DE 17 and AE 15. And I've also shown the 25-foot parallel Falmouth wetlands regulation velocity zone. Mr. Good retained the services of Denise Benoli to design a new house to replace this existing house. And we designed the site and the house in a way to make it more resilient to flooding in two ways. It will be reconstructed to meet the standards for construction in an AE 15 flood zone. And the reason for that is the plan is to demolish it and reconstruct it so that it's outside both the FEMA velocity zone and the Falmouth wetlands reg velocity zone. So that's a good segue into me sharing the proposed plan. Let me show you a different plan than that. That's a little easier to read. This is the proposed site plan. And it's been designed as a redevelopment project and in accordance with your regulations at FWR 10.18. You will see a new house and a new deck shown on here, but you can still see in the background in a red highlight the existing house and the shed. There are actually three wetlands nearby, bordering vegetated wetlands that I show. One is over here across the street, one is over here across the street, and one is way over here. These were flagged and identified on a previous project for the lot next door that I'm circling here in the mid 2010-ish era. And these wetlands have associated with them a 50-foot no disturbance zone A and a 50-foot outer buffer zone B. So we designed the project to not show any new structures within the 50-foot no disturbance zone A all around. And you can see that by where the house is positioned. There was a driveway that existed that I showed you on the existing conditions plan. So the only thing that would still be in the no disturbance zone A to this wetland across the street is the driveway. And we designed this house and calculated the mitigation plantings required with the house in this position. And I did that by first, as I've done in the past, I provided these exhibit plans that show in blue the impervious surfaces in the A zone and the impervious surfaces in the B zone shaded blue and orange. That's the existing condition. And I did the same for the proposed condition here. And then I did all the calculations. And I demonstrated that there was actually a decrease in the no disturbance zone A. And there was an increase in the outer buffer zone B. And that increase in the outer buffer zone B was just over 1,700 square feet. I took a credit for the decrease in the A zone, and then I applied a factor of 2, which is customarily how we've done this in the past. And then I rounded it up to 3,000 square feet. And then I showed the proposed mitigation in green. So there's a significant added buffer to this wetland over here, shaded green here. And I wrapped it around to show it entirely in this area. On the right side here, there is already vegetation, so we left that alone. We proposed to show a limit of work just 10 feet off the proposed house. We've shown dry wells. And the house has been elevated so that the first floor is at 16, which is 1 foot above the AE 15 zone. That allows for a garage under the building because the ground surface is only about elevation 6. This is an open field. The house is surrounded by basically lawn areas, grass areas, except for this one side over here, which is invasive plant material on this side that we still try to do our best to minimize any disturbance. That's in a B zone. This hearing was continued without being opened a few weeks ago because I believe one or more of you commissioners had a concern. You thought there might be another wetland where this vegetation is. We met on site with your staff. A decision was made to retain the services of Teresa Sprague, and Teresa's in the audience, by the way, and if she could be in panel, Jen, that would be helpful because I was going to have her go through her report and her findings that was submitted to you. But because of the concerns about there being another potential wetland on the property, her services were retained. We relied on our observations and the records that were on file already that showed where the wetland resources were when we did the initial design. But this question of whether or not there may be another wetland came up. And because of the way that the soils come into play as indicators, as well as the vegetation, more boring holes were excavated and a report was submitted. And the findings of the report were such that Blue Flex concluded there's no other wetlands on the property. That's my paraphrasing of it. I'd prefer that Teresa just summarize her report. And then we're both here for questions. So I'll stop sharing and
Thanks, Mike.
let Teresa speak.
Teresa,
Hi.
you're up.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Teresa Sprague with Blue Flex Design here on behalf of the applicants. I can certainly walk you through the report that we provided. I'm sure you've all had a chance to look at it. We also provided, along with that report, the wetland data sheets using the new wetland data sheets and the new wetland delineation guidelines that have just been recently issued by the state. We did 2 site visits, Lindsay Cook and I. So Lindsay is our wetland delineator. She's our certified wetland delineator. We went out to the site on, if I can share my screen, I'll bring up the report.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Oops. So we went out and assessed the site on 2 different occasions, on April 12th and then again on April 14th. At our first initial site visit, we went out basically to do a vegetation assessment and just dig a couple of test holes to see. We did not have our Munsell soil chart with us, so we were just looking for very obvious signs of wetland. We did not see any at that time, so we went back out and dug more pits on the 14th. Our initial pits were dug right along the eastern portion of the property where apparently there had been some reduximorphic features found by one of the staff members at Falmouth Conservation. We then dug several more pits along that edge of that area, as well as some in the area between the house and that area that's currently vegetated in the back. In conclusion, we've included our photographs of each of the pits that were dug. On the second occasion, the 4 pits that were dug with measurements along with the soil data sheets. But basically, the conclusion was that we did not find signs of hydric soils. So we were close to meeting some of the sandy redox indicators in one of the pits, where we found redox zygomorphic features at 6 inches of depth from the soil surface. However, none of the other pits showed signs of redoxymorphic features. So we did not meet the hydric soil indicator requirement for the wetlands. The plant community, as Mike pointed out, is all invasive, multiflora rose, autumn olive. There is some Phragmites reed that looks like it was dug from someplace and dumped on the site. But overall, the upland vegetation is, the vegetation is all upland. So the site is difficult. It's definitely a difficult site to read. Our conclusions are that there are some signs of redox features in the one pit that we dug. And the other ones had none. Clearly, this is a site that's subject to flooding, which I think is indicated by the fact that there's floodplain. We also did note that there is a drainage basin tucked in, if you look just behind this vegetated area around where pit number 1 was dug, on the abutting property to the east. And then there's another one located on the street. And we indicated that in our data sheets that there's some signs of altered hydrology with those drainage basins. However, the soils themselves nor the plant community indicated a wetland in this particular area. So happy to answer any questions, any other questions that I can answer regarding our observations.
And Mr. Chairman, I have on my plan, if I could share my screen 1 more minute.
Sure.
The location of where those drains are located. Evidently, there's a road. Hunt Street is here. It's a dirt road. And evidently there were drainage problems in the past, and there's a catch basin here. And there's a catch basin here. So that whenever you introduce man-made drainage structures, they can act as sort of a wick, and you can end up changing the hydrology below the ground in ways that might change the way you may look at the vegetation or the soil. But the end result of it is that there were no wetland plant indicators, and the soils did not
Meet the hydric soil indicators.
indicate that. So we think that the project was designed to meet the standards at 10.18. We think we've enhanced the buffer so that we've designed the house to no longer be in a velocity zone, and the new house will be more resilient to storms than the existing house. So we think it meets all of the requirements of your regulations and the DEP wetlands regulations. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Teresa. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Mike. Teresa, you said Lindsay's certified. She's PWS?
She's not a professional wetland scientist. She's certified by the Wetland Training Institute.
Wetland Training Institute.
Yes.
Okay. Where's that out of?
I will tell you. I was just looking. I can.
Is that Ralph Tyner's group or?
This is. I will send you the information on this. I don't have it fully at hand.
Nope, no problem. I'd like to see it only because I'm sending the agent. I send them off to the Institute of Wetland Research and Environmental education, something like that. It's called IWEER, and it trains them how to delineate wetlands through the federal manual and everything else. So I wanted to
Yep.
know if this was similar.
Yes,
So
I
that would
believe it
be good
is.
to know.
It is
Great.
similar, yes.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you for moving the house outside of the V zone. I know. Unfortunately, Teresa, you and I had this conversation. It's a tricky site.
It's a tricky site.
I just don't know. So a question to you. You saw redox figures in which?
Test pit 4, I believe, showed
she had
some
tested
indicators
4.
that it barely met the S5 Sandy redox indicator at 6 inches of depth.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Did she look at any areas? I know you said you went out that first day, you didn't have your Munsell, you went back. When you went back the second day, did you do more test pits in the grass area between the line where you have 1 through 4 in the house?
We didn't, because the pits that we dug between the house and the area of the vegetation showed no signs. It was just pure sand. So it didn't show any signs. So we were really focusing our attention on the area at the edge of the vegetation where it's slightly lower. It's a very level lot, but it does slope slightly down towards the east. So we were really focusing our pits on that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, not that I, you know, obviously you're giving us this, I'm not that I doubt it. I'm just, I cannot 100% say that I'm comfortable with the delineation, nothing, you know, obviously against blue flags. It's a tricky site. And I mean, we're dealing with a very altered site, a site that's probably got 70 years of fill in it. I mean, it's a tricky site. So, you know, the staff does have some concerns with the delineation, just because we don't have that comfort level yet, just because it's just that kind of, unfortunately, that kind of site parcel.
Yeah.
So I'll let
Yeah,
the
it's
board
really
go with that.
interesting. When I went and looked at the other 2 areas to the south, one directly to the south and one to the southeast, and I'm not sure when those delineations were done. Very clearly, the area directly to the south of this lot is wetland. There's
Wetland, yeah.
absolutely no doubt about it. It's really interesting though, because the area to the southeast, I did not dig any pits. We didn't look in there because we weren't looking at that particular area, but it's mainly supporting an upland plant community, particularly eastern red cedars. So it's really interesting that was delineated as a wetland, and I'm wondering when it was done and how, if vegetation has changed over time. I mean, it's clear that this site this whole area has been
that whole
altered.
neighborhood is filled.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Right.
Unfortunately, we just can't 100% assure the commission that, yes, we are behind this delineation. And again, Teresa, you and I had the conversation yesterday. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
a tricky site. Which brings me to the delineation of the other 2 wetlands. Mr. Borselli,
Yeah,
in the future, going forward, we need updated data sheets on your wetlands. These wetland delineations are very old, and as Teresa said, you know, things could change over time. I mean, these delineations are over 13 years old. So, you know.
yeah, we could give you new data sheets on
Yeah,
these.
I think that's important to see new data sheets, because I mean, and honestly, it could benefit your client.
Yeah,
You know, so just going forward, Mike, just a note, and saying this for the record,
sure.
you know, if your delineation is more than like 5 years old, you know, check with us before you use it on a plan, because you don't want to risk a continuance if we are looking for the data sheets and, you know, your wetland delineation's 10 years old. We just can't accept that.
Sure. So just on that point, very briefly, we made a decision. We made a decision that I mean, there's a road here that you know, there's no viable, you know, possibility for that to change in a way that would affect the project. So we relied on the plan that you had reviewed, granted more than 5 years ago. And the one over here, you know, if that changed, it would not have any impact on the project or the calculations. And the one back here in the back corner, even less so. So, you know, we were just cognizant of that when we developed the plan.
Again, Mike, it's not whether these wetlands are gonna change your project, benefit your project, not benefit your project. We
Mhm.
need correct delineations if we're gonna go forward.
Yep.
So I'm saying it for the record, I don't want to see 10-year-old delineations on plan again. And I really think, I mean, it just comes down to the delineation. And unfortunately, you know, we haven't, Teresa, like, been, you know, gone to any, unfortunately, we weren't able to go to the MACC workshop on the new manual, so that's that. Other than that, looking for the staff reports. So I have one question on the plan. So that area of Phragmites and that area of all the invasives.
Yeah.
That's all gonna be removed and become what?
No, it's not proposed to be removed. It's proposed, I'll share my screen again.
Share your screen, Mike, because I'm seeing a vegetation squiggly.
Yeah,
and
so
your
the
house is
squiggly,
going-
the squiggly is here, which is all in a.
Oh, got it. I see the limit of work, Mike. Okay, yeah. I
So we
just saw, I
honored
just picked
the-
up on it.
We honored the no structure.
Yeah.
And this is all a B zone and it's invasive, but we still were gonna keep invasive or not, we weren't planning on doing anything in
Okay.
this area.
Okay, and the only other question I have, other than, again, the delineation is important because, you know, the structure's moving closer and almost into that area. The only other thing I have is, Mike, where's groundwater? Do you know?
Groundwater, yes, I do, because I think there may be some reporting in the test holes that were dug, but when I looked in these two catch basins, which are leaching catch basins, and I
Yeah.
tape measured down from the rim to the water, which is the groundwater,
Okay,
it was about 24 inches.
so you got 2 feet of groundwater. What are you doing for a dewatering methodology for this site?
The foundation, this ground is slightly higher, but so it would be probably a 3-foot excavation. The footings are going to be 4 foot below grade, so it's only the footing that would be in the water table. So there'd be very minor, if any, need to dewater. Or only the excavation for the footing. And that would simply be by just draw down with a pump into a silt sock on site and let it disperse on the lawn. It's a very, very minor amount of water.
Okay, can you put that dewatering basin on the plan for us, please? So we know where it's gonna go and where they'll be draining that kind of water.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. I think that's all I have at this point, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Bergeron?
I have nothing to add today. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments and questions, Betsy?
I think this is a good project. I'm glad you're moving it back from out of the velocity zone. And where's Teresa? There you are. I don't know if you can see me, but I can see you.
I can see you, yeah.
Yeah, I thought you gave a good report. I don't think there's a need to have somebody else go out there. That's
Anything
all.
else?
That's all I have. Nope.
Well, I don't want to cut you off. Yeah.
No, and I appreciate that, Jamie.
Mr. Byrd?
I will echo Betsy's comments. I think it's a nicely designed project and it's a tough site. No other comments.
All right. I concur. I think it was planned out well. So, thank you. Kevin?
I tend to agree, even though as listening to the discussion, I get scared. But I feel somewhat assured by listening to both sides, and I think it's a well-designed project, and I feel comfortable letting it go forward. God help.
Thank you. Maury.
I just had a question for Jen. What would, if, just say you went out or staff or did a hydric test just to see what the soils are, just to confirm Teresa's findings, is that what you're headed for?
Well, no, Mark went out there already and poked around. So Mark's been out there poking around, digging some, taking an auger and
Yep.
looking around. And this is where our uncomfort is because it's right on that cusp of having the redox features. I think he did maybe probably a little bit more with the auger than digging like actual test pits. So Mark wasn't particularly comfortable not calling this area. Wait a minute. Not calling this area a wetland as a risk of a double negative there. So like I said, we're on the fence, and we just we would, if the board wanted more information on the wetland, we would suggest going for an outside opinion. That's all.
And
Because
then
we're uncomfortable at the staff level because it's such a disturbed site looking at it.
And then if you did a peer review, what would change this project?
Well, it would depend on what the peer reviewer came back as what the wetland line was, and who and what the board decided to do with that information.
Okay.
I mean, they could come back and say it's not a wetland. We agree with Teresa, and everybody's happy.
All right, thank you. That's helpful.
Okay.
All right. Melissa.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do not agree with the vast majority of my compatriots here on the Conservation Commission. I'm wondering, first of all, Mr. Borselli, has your client looked at the 2030 SLAM wetland classifications for that neighborhood? The vulnerability assessments that the town did a few years ago classifies this area as being non-tidal swamp by 2030. We all know that we've got sea level problems and stormwater problems in town. And that area, that whole neighborhood is filled in wetland. And we know that wetlands march, and we know that wetlands want to become wetlands again, or old wetlands want to become wetlands again. And I mean, when you look at the vulnerabilities, I'm looking over here at another laptop with the vulnerability assessments on it. We've got riverine tidal water coming in from the back. We've got the whole neighborhood being non-tidal swamp 7 years out. Okay, we're dealing 7 years, they're going to be living with water. And living with water, that house on stilts, once it's in water all the time, will be considered a hazard of navigation. A hazard of navigation, and will need to come down. At least that's what the current legal opinions are. So and also the whole north lawn, not just the east area that goes towards that drainage easement that has the Phragmites and everything that sort of looks like a wetland area. The whole north area between current house and the houses to the north of it just looks like it wants to be a wetland. And but as I was reminded, it was indeed a wetland, 50, 80 years ago, or whenever this whole neighborhood was built. So I'm wondering, I don't think this is a wise idea. If anything, just keep the house where it is, and maybe elevate it or not do anything to it and just enjoy it while you can, because the whole neighborhood's pretty ephemeral right now. I mean, one storm and it's done. But it really is. I'd be much more comfortable if we had other people in there, because I mean, even Teresa's report says that they did they visited twice, on the 12th and the 14th. And I'm wondering what the difference is even in, the tides when they went there, or in the weather when they went there. But on the 12th, they saw evidence of wetlands, but the 14th, they didn't. And, that's not just the only area that looked wetlandy. It just doesn't seem right. And then, okay, if this project were to go through as is designed, I mean, you said it's on piers. How much of below the house is actually going to be impervious? You mentioned a garage underneath the house, so there'll be an elevator room or something like that, or what's going to be impervious under the house, please?
This will be in an AE zone. You're allowed to have the entire underside be a concrete slab and enclosed, as all houses in AE zones are allowed to be. There's no prohibitions against any amount of enclosure or amount of impervious surface in an AE zone.
Thinking hypothetical, if it's actually a wetland, then
I'm thinking in what we see today and what the report says. And Mike, you had started your comments by, is my client aware? My client's very much aware. His family has been here for decades. This is a legacy property for him. He's very much aware of issues with flood zones and things. And his brother lives next door. His family's in the neighborhood, and he wants to make a new house that's more resilient. He's very much aware of issues with flood zones.
Okay, that's good to know, because we do get a lot of people in front of us who have not seen the data for 20 years out, let alone 10 years out. Okay.
Yeah, I think Mr. Good is listening, and he may want to talk to me tomorrow about that. But as of right now, we stand by the project as proposed.
Yeah, I guess it was just disturbing to see the drainage easement so close right there, which, I mean, obviously things are draining out, and the wetlands across the way are, want to move across the street. Yeah, I'm uncomfortable. I mean, I think it's great that you tried to move it out of the velocity zone, but it just doesn't seem like, I'd like to find the win-win situation for this property. But I'd like to see the wetlands also win and be able to, keep to make this more resilient. And that might include, elevating and not keeping it closed down to the ground. But I'd like to see an independent survey, especially of, the north back, basically along the property line, where they all sort of gully down into sort of like a gutter area. And when I was out there, it was swampy.
I remember being told about your visit the day of the hearing, and the week before, for a period of time before that, we had a significant amount of rainfall events.
Yeah, and that wasn't tidal, that was rain. So that made me wonder what it's really like during moon tides and things like that. Okay, I'd really feel more comfortable if we had another assessment. Thanks.
All right. Like anything, we could ask 10 people, get 10 different opinions. So it sounds to me like we should have a separate vote on peer review. That makes sense, Jen? Procedurally.
That makes sense, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Before we do anything like that, let's continue with, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Doesn't appear to be anything in the public chat, but let me look real quick.
All right. Mike and or Teresa, is there anything else you'd like to
Oh,
add?
Mr. Good has his hand raised, so I am going to promote Mr. Good up. And as I do that, Teresa, is it the Wetland Training Institute? Is that what you said?
Correct.
Great, I found it. Thank you. So it looks like they delineate the same as the class I was talking about. They delineated by the Corps, Army Corps manual.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, good evening, and I appreciate your time and your attention to this matter. in regards to the question Melissa raised as far as, doing something with the existing house, the house was, is basically, unfortunately, we love the house. We hate to see it going down, but at the same time, the house is not functional anymore. It really needs a lot of work. It can't be modified in any way. And that's why we're taking this project. This is going to be my wife's and I permanent home. And, we thought initially when Conservation made the request to have an expert look at the wetlands, we thought that was a reasonable request and it made sense. And but we did get an expert, and the conclusion of the expert is that it's not a wetlands. It doesn't meet any of the criteria of the wetlands. So, it would be my request is that we're asking that it not be a peer review, that we'd be allowed to go forward. We understand the risk and the association with, the tides rising and all that. My family's been down there for years. I think Mike has designed a excellent layout of the property, and we're just requesting that we be allowed to move forward, not backwards. We have an expert, I think is highly qualified, has done her homework. Her conclusion is it's not a wetlands. And I'm not, from my standpoint, I don't see the need for a further peer review when you have a well-qualified, well-respected expert who reaches that conclusion. And I just wanted to make that statement. I appreciate your time and attention to it, but I just wanted to address Melissa's question about possibly leaving the house there. And it's just not functional anymore. The flat roof is leaking, the bedrooms into the bedroom ceilings, and it's not, and you can't modify it in any other way. Like I said, my wife and I are going to move there. It's going to be a permanent home. And again, I'm requesting that there not be a peer review under the circumstances. And I think, a number of the panel has agreed that it's a nice project, well laid out. So, and again, I thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function or anything else, I guess I want to say?
Nothing else in the public chat, Mr. Chairman, and no additional hands raised.
Okay.
Except for
So,
Maury.
Maury?
I kind of was hinting on what would happen if that is a wetland, because I know the house is doubling in size. Would the house be smaller? Is that if that wetland was there, then the house would end up being reduced a little bit to stay out of the A buffer? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, I'll try to answer that. It's sort of it's an unknown. If there were ever a wetland here in the past when Old New Silver was developed, that was back at the turn of the century. So what are the interests of the wetland that you'd be protecting that may have existed? It's sort of speculation. So it's hard to really comment beyond that. You're tasked with protecting wetland resources from impacts by man's activities. And there's presumptions of significance and interest to protect. There wouldn't be none if there is no current wetland in this area. So it's just speculation.
So Jamie, I'd like to put a motion on the table that we do have, I'm going to put a positive motion on the table that we do have a wetlands consultant.
Okay.
Bartok, second.
So again, so everyone's clear, this is a vote within the vote, so to speak. So there's a motion and a second on the table to request a peer review for this project. That clear to everyone? So you want to vote for it, a peer review, or you can vote against it. It's up to you. Melissa?
May I just make a quick comment for discussion, Jamie, on the motion?
What?
Just, we have a discussion on the motion, just briefly, please. I'd just like to point out that, I recognize that the person who is hired is a is a wetland consultant, but they're also working for the applicant and not working for the town. And so if we get an independent review, then it would be somebody sort of working with the town. And just gathering more scientific data.
All right. Again, this is a vote within the vote. So we're voting simply for or against a peer review. All right. Again, the motion, the second is on the table, so we're gonna vote. Betsy,
No,
Courtney,
No,
Matthews, no. Kevin,
O'Brien, no.
Maury,
No,
Melissa?
Aye.
Okay. 5-1, so it does not pass. We are not gonna require a peer review on this project. So,
may I make another motion, Jamie?
yes,
So I'm going to make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
all right. We have a motion and a second on the table to close this hearing and take it under advisement. Any other comments or questions? All right, I don't see any, so we're gonna vote. Again, a motion and a second is to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carl Hawks, aye.
Melissa.
No.
Okay. 5-1, it passes. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Borselli. Thank you, Ms. Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Teresa. Teresa, you don't need to send me the info. I found it, so thanks.
Okay, perfect.
I didn't know this was out here, so looks like it mirrors what Tyner does, so great. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Thank you, commissioners. Have a good night. Thank you.
Night,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Night,
Good night.
Teresa.
Night.
Night, Mr. Good.
Yep, thank you. Good night. Thank you for your time.
Jen, is that something somebody on staff should get? Hold on. It's a
the thing
two-part
is-
question.
I've gone through.
Stop.
He's not finished with this question
Two-part
yet.
question.
Oh.
Let me finish.
Sorry.
I'm not trying to dump more on you guys. I'm asking if somebody on staff could get that. But if that happens, is that a burden on staff that be? You know what I
No.
mean? Because it just seems to me something like that's kind of simple to. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's a discussion we should have for another day. But I just wanted to throw that out there. You know, you guys have a lot to do, so I don't want to add to it. But you're asking about it, so I was wondering.
No, it's a tricky delineation. I went through the Institute 20 years ago. You know, unless you're working with it every day, you know, you get a little rusty. The agents have either gone through the Institute of Wetland Research. It's the same delineation course that Teresa was just talking about. But again, if you're not working with soils every single day, you know, it can get kind of tricky. And, you know, yes, staff can do it, but sometimes, you know, we're not perfect. And sometimes we need assistance in interpreting the field conditions. You know, Mark went out and looked at it. I looked at it with Mark. It's a tricky one, but I mean, if the redox, it's marginally there. And you know, our job is to.
No, I was asking more in a general sense.
Okay.
You know. All right, maybe we can discuss that further at another point.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, so we have closed that hearing. Next up had been previously continued. So that brings us to, make sure I have it right. All right. Franciscan Friars Holy Name Province, number 2, Uncantina North, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a set of stairs, reconstruct a concrete wall with steps, reconstruct portions of an existing patio in kind, and to install mitigation and restoration plantings. And Alyssa, tell me, Ms. Bergeron, tell me you agree. I think this was not opened. Okay, so the quorum is everyone here tonight. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I promoted Tim Santos of Merrill Engineering to present his project.
Tim Santos, that name sounds familiar. Didn't we have
Yeah.
some guy that was here from town before?
Tim
But there was some
Santos.
really cool person that replaced him, that Erica. She was
Yes,
fantastic.
yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
so we're stuck
right.
with- All right.
Good
Tim,
evening.
welcome back.
Good evening. I hope everybody's having a great evening. So, for the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineering. The property is located at 2 Uncantina North, and with your permission, I will share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Can everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Alrighty, so like I said, the property is located at 2 Uncantina North. It's currently developed with an existing single-family home. Resource areas on or within 100 feet of the property are land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, a rocky intertidal shore, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and a coastal bank. We are here tonight looking for your approval to construct a set of steps off the rear deck, reconstruct or I should say, remove the existing concrete walls and steps to the basement and reconstruct them with precast walls and steps. It's also a portion of the existing flagstone patio in this area that they're looking to reconstruct, and kind of outside of jurisdiction, they're looking to remove some of the mulch beds and install some drip strips adjacent to the structure. This is a redevelopment project under 1018. So we do have, hold on a second. We do have some redevelopment calcs that are on the plan. There is approximately 206 square feet of mitigation plantings required for the new footprint of the deck. And there was an old RDA from back in 2011 when they reconstructed this deck. And at the time, there were some mitigation plantings that were proposed in this area that are no longer there, and a few trees. So we are proposing to replant them as well as the trees. And when staff was researching the project, they noticed that sometime between 2016 and 2018, this concrete walkway and flagstone patio was constructed without permission. So we are proposing 997 square feet of mitigation plantings to compensate for those unauthorized items. So in total, we're proposing 1,600 square feet of mitigation plantings and 7 trees in this area here. The species are shown on the plan, the calculations are shown on the plan. And if the board has any questions, I'd be more than happy to address them.
Thanks, Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think Tim addressed all the questions and concerns we had at the beginning when we first started looking at this plan. So I have no comments.
All right, Ms. Bergeron.
I have no comments. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner, questions or comments? Courtney. You're muted, Courtney.
No
Courtney,
comments.
you're muted.
No
Okay.
comments.
All right, thank you. Kevin.
You're asking me? No questions.
I missed you, Kevin. I called on you even when you weren't here. All right, Ori,
No questions or comments.
Melissa.
No questions, and I'm glad that they relocated the trees from the original plan. Nice job. Thank you.
Excellent. Betsy.
I have no questions. I have a comment. It's nice to see Tim, and it's been nice to see your young colleague here other times. So I'm glad you're back in town.
Thank you. I'm back. You'll continue to see me. Unfortunately, fortunately for Erica, she's going to be a new mom. So, but she's no longer with us. She's taken time off. So I'm very happy for her, but very upset that she won't be able to help me out anymore.
Yeah,
So,
Well, good for her. Congratulate her
yes,
for
yeah,
us.
yeah. She's very
Yeah.
happy. So.
That's good. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
then
you.
I'll make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we're going to vote. Again, the motion and the second is to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Arlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa.
I talk aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Santos.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You as well.
Thank you.
Enjoy. I know you missed that,
Wednesday.
Betsy, so
I did miss that. And I will, thanks, Tim.
take care. Bye.
All right. Next up is a continued request for a hearing under an enforcement order. Susan and Gerald Lieber, 16 Lake Shore Drive North and 0 Lake Shore Drive North. All right. Map and parcel number 22-04-027-004A, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of vegetation and construction of retaining walls within conservation jurisdiction. And Kevin, you are not on this quorum. So you can take a coffee break. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant, the property owner has requested a continuance until May 24th. Just to inform the board, we have met with the property owner's daughter and Jeff Johnson. We met, was it last week, Alyssa? To kind of go over the concerns and issues we raised at, I believe, 16 Lakeshore Drive North. So they now clearly understand where our concerns are regarding that property, and they will be compiling a plan, but it is going to take some time. So we are also talking to them on how we are going to implement the enforcement order on 0 Lakeshore Drive. So there is progress being made. I know it's been a while, Melissa. I understand your frustration, but there is progress being made.
Moving forward, that's always good.
Oh,
All right.
So I'll make a motion to continue this till May what?
24.
24th.
Bird
Gladfelter.
second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to continue this until May 24th. Any questions or comments? All right. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Arlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa.
I talk aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until May 24th. Next up, vote orders of conditions. First up, Brad and Lucille Nelson, 418 West Falmouth Highway, Falmouth, Mass.
bear with me. one second.
I'm sorry, Kevin, Kevin's not on this forum. Yeah, Kevin, you're not on the next few. You could be excused if you really wanted to.
Well,
No,
I'll
he
listen
can't.
in anyway.
He
We
can't be,
can't.
he can't be excused because we have an announcement at the end.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
We missed you. We need to see you as long as possible. All right.
418, this was the plan presented by Warren down at Little Harbor Gardens and Dave Martin. It's an addition. two proposed additions, a proposed terrace and required mitigation plantings with a mowed path behind them to protect them from the adjacent
Invasive plants.
invasive, thank you.
It's like you walk out on your lawn and you look at some of your trees and you have things starting to work their way up.
So what are you thinking, folks? Anything?
No, it was pretty straightforward, right?
I had no questions.
There was a car pod in the invasives right behind right off the edge of the property. I don't
Oh,
know if
you
it's
want
their property.
the garbage cleaned up out of the basin.
And it's probably mostly the neighbors, but I think something looks like it's on their property, one thing.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to issue an order of
Let's see if
conditions.
I can.
Oh,
sorry.
okay, sorry, sorry,
problem.
Alyssa.
No worries. Someone had also requested that we receive a revised plan, so the mitigation is shown on both plans. I don't think it was on Dave Martin's.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Also, considering recent hearings, it might be wise to write a condition when we have plantings in a B zone. Just acknowledging that they are to not be removed in the future.
Yeah, a finding that they were put on,
Excellent point.
put in the B.
Mhm.
They were put in the B because there wasn't room in the A, but then a condition that they can't be removed.
Correct.
Agreed. All right. I heard a motion. I did not hear a second.
Bird second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Anything else? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
it is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Joseph M. Lacana, 23 Childs River Road, Falmouth, Mass.
One second, Mr. Chairman.
That was that spot where they were going to remove their little octagonal deck and remove some unpermitted terraces,
Yes.
mitigate a lot. Tucked in down the water and a couple doors down, there's.
Yeah,
some-
they're proposing a patio. They're removing some stuff. They're proposing a rinse station. Deck to be removed. They're replacing walkways and patios. They're reducing the gravel parking. And they're adding both mitigation and restoration planting.
Quite a bit of it.
Thing. All right, anything anybody want to see in there?
We talked about some trees that were coming down that maybe didn't have to come down.
You pointed out some trees. I think they said they had to, two of them had to come down because they were interfered with where things were being built, and one was shredded.
Yeah.
Well,
They
it's
going
fine.
to, are they gonna plant an extra tree? Something like that? It's already pretty.
I think they
What is it?
showed, hang on. They do show they are replanting 2 red maples, 2 white spruce, and 1 swamp oak.
Yep, 5.
So I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird
Gladfelter.
second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Anything else? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
it is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, John and Karen Daigle, 27 Davis Neck Road, Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, this is the pool, the proposed pool. They are mitigating for the pool. They are reestablishing prior mitigation plants that seem to have been
Disappeared.
removed or died off. And I believe the applicant added in the removal of some invasive bamboo by mechanical means. So
And
I
they,
know there is, the neighbor has concerns with trees in a view easement, and again, that really doesn't have anything to do with us. That's a private agreement between two property owners. But perhaps staff could meet on site with the applicant and the applicant's neighbors, representatives, and find an alternate location for the proposed cedar that I think Tom had on his plan. We'd be happy to do that. And they're proposing to do a root barrier. I don't know how. I know the neighbor has concerns with the removal of the bamboo, wants the bamboo left on his property. It's a really aggressive invasive plant. It needs to be eradicated. I don't know how well it's gonna do with the root barrier, but.
We
Well, I
can't
guess-
force him to remove it, right? I mean.
What
So
was that?
the
we
neighbor,
can't force the neighbor to remove his.
No, you can't, which, it's kind of unfortunate. We've had a lot of really calls lately regarding bamboo and neighbors dumping bamboo on neighbors' properties. But that's the plan. I don't know if there's any alternative method that you can use besides excavating it out. Maury, do you have any ideas?
Didn't we have someone that came in front of us a couple of years ago to do phragmites and bamboo, Japanese knotweed? That was a rubber mat barrier that they left on top for.
yeah,
that was,
out east.
Yeah, remember
Falmouth.
for a couple of years, because I'm still really concerned that you pull those rhizomes out. And I haven't seen anything from any studies that anybody's taking it for recycling. And I know Marie had mentioned that, and it would be great, but I don't know who's truly separating it. And, you have to either burn it or you can't compost it, because as soon as you grind it, it's now in every piece of, that's why it's everywhere in town, because it goes into these recycle places, and they make dirt out of it.
Yeah, this isn't the Japanese knotweed.
No, this is bamboo.
This is that little skinny bamboo, yeah.
Yeah, but
I think you need to put a condition that it's, I think what she said was that they were actually going to dig it out, and that's what they have to do with Japanese knotweed too. And fill it in with clean soil. And this will be an interesting test case to see what happens, whether a root barrier works. I have my doubts.
my big doubt is where it's going to go. I don't care if it comes back there, because they can keep experimenting on that lot. But when you dig out 10 or 12 or 20 cubic yards of bamboo roots and rhizomes, and you bring it to Cape Resources, where she said she was going to bring it, and that somebody else, I forget. All Cape, somebody, that they were going to bring it there. What are they doing with it? That's the problem, because once that gets mixed into loam and it goes everywhere over in Falmouth. I mean, that's what's been happening.
Courtney?
Oh, and Maury, you're right. I think you've got a legitimate concern. And the question is, do we have the authority to mandate that it goes to someone who will properly dispose of it so it doesn't do what we are all worried about? Or is that unrealistic?
Well, I don't know why they're not using a herbicide to, contain it on site, eradicate it on site, and then put the lawn in.
Well, this isn't the first time we've had a bamboo removal or bamboo, somebody trying to attack the bamboo on their land. What, Jen, what have people done in the past?
The only other bamboo project I can think of in the recent past was the one over
North Falmouth.
Did we
west
have one in my
west-
neighborhood?
Falmouth near
In
you.
my neighborhood, about a half a mile from here.
Yes.
Yeah. West Falmouth.
Yeah, West Falmouth, where they removed it, but they did it without our permission, so they came in after the fact.
Was that
What did they
the
do
one-
with it? We don't know what they did with it.
Yeah.
What I
Lynn,
would say is we could offer the bamboo must be disposed properly. And I can have an additional follow-up discussion with Maria about what they're actually doing with this stuff over at All Cape Recycling. And then we could also condition it if they, decided to forego the mechanical removal, allow them through the condition to be able to treat it with an herbicide. And I'd give them both options so they can weigh both options.
Yeah, it'd be nice to
Okay.
follow up to find out
And
whether
then-
All Cape really has that service or not.
Correct. Okay. So why don't we just say we'll have to condition that the bamboo be disposed of properly? I mean, that's really all we can do. We can't mandate it that it goes somewhere if we don't know where it should go. And then 2, give them the option to treat it with the herbicides. And again, staff can have a follow-up discussion with the contractor that's going to be doing the work. To get more information about this supposed the disposal site.
Yep.
Okay.
Can we request like, David, of where they disposed of it and or how?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Is that unrealistic?
No.
yeah, go ahead, Melissa. I'll be speaking out of turn.
Thanks. Along the same thread, when we
Sorry,
with
I didn't mean
dredge-
to interrupt you.
It's okay. When we deal with dredge spoils, we find out where they're putting it, or we tell them to get it out of the area. So I mean, something like the bamboo, could we say, let's either approve this place, All Cape or whatever it was, or have it get shipped off Cape? Can we tell them?
But we
have to-
can't give our problems, our environmental problems to another place.
But are there other places that manage bamboo off Cape?
Well, we don't know. I mean, we can't just
Yeah.
say, don't dispose of it in Falmouth. As long as it's out of our site, we can't say that.
Okay, so what about the stuff then that they hand treat Phragmites with? The chemicals? So that it's non-toxic to everything else around it.
Maybe I can address this. Why can't we specify that yes, it's disposed of properly and the firm or whatever receiving it needs to describe what their methodology is for neutralizing it to our satisfaction. We have to approve that. If we can't do that, then we're powerless.
We import a panda bear.
In this case, again, if you want an affidavit of where it was disposed of and how it was disposed of, I think that is possible. I think it's possible to condition either mechanical removal with that affidavit on how it's being disposed of, and then I can have a follow conversation again with the contractor, and then maybe reach out to All Cape Recycling, and then also give them the option of foregoing the mechanical removal and using an herbicide type treatment in order to kill
Yeah.
it.
I want to talk to you afterwards, okay?
Okay,
Just about 5 more minutes.
Kevin?
Kevin,
So.
you're live.
Sorry.
It's okay. So I think at this point on this project, those are our options.
Yeah, that's a good
Okay,
condition.
but just let me clarify what I was saying about the affidavit is that I'm not asking for anything about All Cape or anybody else, and I'm not judging anyone. What I'm asking is, can we require documentation? I did use the word affidavit, for lack of a better word, but documentation about the contractor saying we eradicated it using this method, or we mechanically removed it and we disposed of it to such and such. For example, under the building, in the building department, when we get a permit, we have to tell them where we're getting a dumpster and where that dumpster is going to go. From there, it's not our problem. We need to tell them where it's getting shipped to, because mainly they want to know it's getting shipped, you know, somewhere. So I don't know that we have the authority, one with this project or even in general, to go after any disposal site. All I'm suggesting is that, can we have a contractor, not just this project, but all of them like this, to say, okay, you know, we mechanically removed it, we put it, you know, in a dump truck and we drove it to X. And then we just know where it went. Whether we agree with that or not is beside the point. It's the fact that they took it to, in theory, a legitimate site. It'd be nice if we could have a conversation with like Blacksmith Shop Farms and or All Cape or anybody for that matter, and see what their process is for disposing of this site, or whether they even accept it, you know. But I'm not saying that we should involve those people for any particular project, other than we just want to know where it was taken, or how it was, you know, was it chemically treated, then removed? I don't know. I mean, so that just to be clear, that's what I was looking for.
And I think, Mr. Chairman, that's along the same lines of what I was just explaining, and I agree with you. And I mean, staff can reach out to different disposal facilities and see, you know, I can write, I can reach out to the fellow Cape Cod agents and fellow Southeast Mass agents and see what they're doing with bamboo, where their disposal facilities are and things like that. But Courtney, I think what you were suggesting, I like Jamie's approach.
The only thing I wanted to add is it appropriate that if it's going to be shipped to say All Cape Disposal, that we require that we get a receipt from All Cape Disposal if that's where it went.
I think let's just take this one step at a time, Courtney. Let me do some research and everything like that. And, you know, I mean,
I want to, somebody says
time.
we're going to dispose of it legally and they go dump it over in a pond somewhere. You know, if we have a receipt, at least we've got some kind of evidence that it was taken where in a legitimate spot. I think that's not unreasonable.
Okay. Well, I think that's what the documentation would be from the contractors. Jamie.
Yeah, that's all. It's all part of the paper trail. That's all.
Yeah, this is where I disposed of it. This is where I mechanically removed it. This is where it went.
Yes.
I'm going to make a motion to issue an order of conditions based on this discussion with Melissa's comment.
Bird second.
Sorry, just one more note that we had, Jamie, if I may.
Sure.
In regards to the area of bamboo, Maria did offer to revegetate the area that wasn't stated on the plan. So I think she mentioned that 2 dead trees, 1 live tree were coming out. So she would replace that area with 3 trees and a variety of shrubs. I don't think the entire bamboo area was proposed to be revegetated, considering that some of that was lawn before, but she would put some in, I believe, along the property line.
And you're right, and that should be a condition, because it didn't come in. There's no paper trail that it came in. It was just testimony during the hearing.
Melissa?
My notes say that that they said that they would replant the oak clusters and replant the bamboo thicket area.
You just said.
Yeah,
That's
but
what she
replant the
just
whole
said.
area. Yeah, but she didn't
Yeah,
know if they were going to do the whole thing or not.
So that'll be a standalone condition.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Again, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as extensively discussed. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Arlo Hawks eye.
Melissa?
Right, okay.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Cheryl Ann Smith, 32 Salt River Road, Falmouth, Mass.
This is for their pool repairs, patio enlargement, mitigation, reducing the bocce court areas, the bocce court,
Yeah, taking the bocce court out.
bocce court removal, replanting that area. And then we continued the hearing because the area beyond the fence was cleared. They added a vista corridor and they added some clusters of and groupings of shrubs in the kind of sparse understory area that was beyond the fence line. And the only issue I think that was still outstanding from the continued hearing was they had a proposed tree that was under canopies of other trees towards the southeast part of the property, and that should be relocated. And we say we can condition that to be relocated in the field.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah, it was a red maple.
Courtney, you're not on this forum, just so you know.
Oh, great.
You can't go either though,
Sorry.
Courtney.
That's why you don't remember it, Courtney.
I think the only other thing we said that if the pool, that big concrete apron, that they have some kind of box drain or something so it doesn't just sheet off.
Okay.
All right.
So
Anything
I'll
else?
make a motion, issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Harlow Hawk second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Anything else? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Harlow Hawk's aye.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of condition. Next up, vote to amend order of conditions. AC Cape Cod LLC, 836 Palmer Ave, Falmouth, Mass.
These are the septic upgrades to the auto camp, very limited work being proposed in our jurisdiction, but given the recent issues over the auto camp, we felt it necessary to go under a public amendment. But it's just conduit work from the system being repaired going into the control building.
Yeah, kind of basic.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Anything? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Harlow Hawk's aye.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. One piece of other business. Betsy has an announcement to make.
Just to bring you up to date, what we're doing with the Upper River. We just received 3 grants. We received a grant from the CPC for $200,000. We received a grant from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for $1,052,500. And we
Awesome.
received a grant through Audubon. It's a NOAA grant to Audubon, and then Audubon will contract with us. That's for $1,692,000.
Wow.
So
Fantastic.
our goal
Wow.
is to get all the restoration, all the boardwalks, all the ADA trails done.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Good job,
That's
Betsy.
fantastic.
Amazing.
Congratulations. Betsy.
Fantastic, Betsy.
So we'll be up to
Fantastic.
75% plans by June 30th and permits. We'll start with permits, which you'll see a permit. You'll see one of those permits.
How much is
So
it
my
worth to you?
hope is that we start by December.
Awesome.
What was that, Kevin?
Awesome.
How much is it worth to you, Betsy?
How much is it worth?
That's
That's,
priceless.
it's priceless. That's right, Melissa.
It's priceless.
Congratulations, Beth.
fantastic.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Betsy, for all
Thanks.
your work. Nice job.
Well, it's exciting. It'll be an exciting new area for people to explore.
Yeah.
I am so excited having to deal with ASAP again.
Oh, I know. So this means that Jen and I get to, well, and also working with Peter and Ed, Finance, and Vicky, we get to do these government grants, which are these complex logins that every 6 months, we need a new login. And they ask, Jen's first cat's name, what's the first street she lived on, and even though she knows it's the same answer, it doesn't work. You always have to call up.
Yeah,
But-
I like to say I'm a frequent flyer of their helpline. I'm always like, yeah, I'm locked out of my account again. But congratulations, Betsy, and we'll work and I will come up with new and creative passwords
We'll
for these
have fun.
programs.
Sounds like someone needs a password manager.
Some passwords Betsy has vetoed.
I don't know if this is it. I'm done after this, so I might let you have some of those passwords now.
You're not done. You can move on to something else.
Oh,
All
we're
right,
gonna fight
last
that
motion.
40B.
I make a motion to close, I know to adjourn. Carlo
Wait
Hawks.
a second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Is that me? O'Brien, I.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Right, tug eye.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
Betsy.
Night, everybody.